Green space. Where's the party at?
Right
here under my shoes.
That's right.
Green space. What time is it? Time to get wild and loose.
So you see what we're in for, right?
Full ride.
So let me begin by thanking Green Space, because when we lost Prince, part of this, we here tonight, I think all of us, for almost therapy. When we need to do something.
Yes.
And the Green Space was nimble enough to respond, to open the doors, to live stream this. So please, let me thank the whole team at Green Space. And then I said, I got friends who are really smart. And so I called up the Iron Man, Greg Tate.
Indeed.
And Michaela Angela Davis, and Touré.
You clap for that. She was like,
Come on now. And Vernon Reid. Because so each of these people in their professional and artistic lives have a real point of view on Prince. And I said, if we all got together with you guys, because by the way, I only do conversations. We're not here to, we're here to talk, have a conversation with you. So we're gonna reserve time to make sure that you get some input and feedback. And the structure of this panel is gonna be also, if he says something you want to comment on, jump right in here. I believe we're in the era of disruption, and I think disruption is a good thing.
that's the right crew for that.
And so let's start with really being disruptive, because oftentimes, we have this moment of silence, and of course we feel for his family, his friends, but I want everybody to stand up. Everybody stand up. The name of this program is Prince So Cool. Now, to prove there was a well-selected title, we're gonna play the video.
I got a penthouse in Manhattan, two more in Malibu, y'all. I got a 87 Cadillac Seville. Said I got a Bentley, baby blue, with diamonds on my finger. Look at here. I got a couple on my toe. Body perfume, money can't buy. Keep me smelling like a rose. Sugar. It's all because of something that a brother didn't learn in school. I'm just honey, baby, can't you see? I'm just so there ain't nobody bad like me. Spell it out. Oh, we got the old school back here, Shelby. Wait a minute. I might die in Charlotte City. That's right. Dance all night and roll. Dance all night and roll. I got a little place that I want to. I'm legit, bring me home. Take it down. I think it's like the Dusty. Sugar, 'cause I got money by the ton. Said I did. Say nobody better. You girl, you know that I'm the one. Said what? It's all. That I did not learn in school. Somebody say, I'm just. Come on. Honey, baby, can't you see? Can't you see? I'm just. There ain't nobody bad like me. I'm in Charlotte tonight.
So that gives you a clue of where we're going today.
To the bridge.
To the bridge. But we should have a moment, because, and I'm going to start with you, Greg. We did have a huge, besides family and friends, a huge cultural loss. What did we lose in this great genius?
The thing is that he was with us for the span what was, almost right up on the edge of being a 40-year career, and Vernon and I, we were talking about how, like, we're in the same generational group, late 50s. So there's a lot that culturally influenced him that had a grand impact on us. Civil rights movement, Black Power, the funk era, all those great bands, that whole band culture, Stevie Wonder's succession of brilliant albums. And what so there's a lot that we're going to come to recognize about what was important about him in retrospect, because, and part of that for me is that, wow, he was listening to all these great bands, records, and he was taking notes though. He was deconstructing that stuff. He said, okay, I need to know how to do this with recording, I need to know how to do this with synthesizers. I need to know how to do this with guitars. I need to know how to do this with these various genres and styles, So, I mean, there's a whole kind of student-scholar period that we weren't even privy to, because he comes to us, we realize, like, fully formed. And you don't realize that listening to maybe the first couple of records, it starts to slowly sink in, just how much musical acumen he has, how much familiarity he has with, the whole history of the music. And that's from the Church in the Wild all the way up through Bitches Brew. You know what I mean? Like, he's compressed, it's like, I think Gene Simmons said, he was the singularity. You know what I mean? Because he basically kind of absorbed all these other intergalactic supernova phenomenon in the history of the music into his thing.
Touré, I felt like you want to jump in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, all that. And one of the interesting things is that he comes out of an era when, what he received from the radio was relatively small, as opposed to now, a teenager could access anything. Even when we were growing up as the Gen Xers up here.
I have to say au contraire, because he grew up in the Midwest.
Yeah. In
the Midwest, what we had was top 40 radio, which meant you heard everything. In the span of that play, it meant if a country tune broke through, you heard that. If it was a Louis Armstrong doing What's a Wonderful, It's a Wonderful World from the 60s, then that became pop. Chuck Berry doing My Ding-a-ling, and then it was, The Rush, Van Halen, or Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, all of that. But then you also all the Philly stuff too.
But there was learning that happened as he grew older, because he was not exposed to everything. And this is what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, he was exposed to a hell of a lot growing up. Because I'm from Dayton, Ohio, so I can tell you, like, top 40 radio in the Midwest in the 60s and 70s was very broad and diverse, because it was so song driven, for one thing. And you literally heard, if you're in the middle of the country where they didn't have a soul radio station or a dedicated album oriented rock station, you kind of heard whatever it was that popped through, because the hook was there, the beat was there, the whole thing. But Vernon told me something years ago about how, first time he went to Minneapolis, he realized there was this amazing magazine store.
Oh, dude.
And so for a lot of us who got a lot of our cultural information about what was happening in Britain from all these magazines,
Absolutely.
Melody Maker, New Music Express, The Face, he was reading those same magazines.
I'm still where you are, though, about What Did We Lose?
Yeah.
Because even while, it was great for us to stand up and watch that, video, and I was obsessed with his suit right away and his hair. Like, I was like, oh my God, he's so damn pretty, right? I'm still really feeling a sense of loss. I've been to a couple parties. I have yet to really dance and go crazy, because I feel that he was really at a place where he was showing us what it looked like to be a free Black man. Like,
all right.
And to me, because my lens is always through style. Like, the first thing I saw was his hair, but to me, when he had the accessory of slave on his face, I felt like that was the bravest thing I've ever seen, sort of an American pop icon do with their body, more than Madonna. That was the most shocking, radical thing that I had seen an artist of that caliber do. That he wore, and then he said he was emancipated, and then he got his music back. And I wanted to see who was he going to be. Like that was I felt like that was the last bit of him totally being self-emancipated, right? And that's the term that Harriet Tubman said. She never called herself a freed slave. She said she was self-liberated.
That's right.
And to be a self-liberated Black American is some shit I want to see.
That's right. That's right.
And I feel like he was an illustration of the possibility of it. It wasn't just that he was free artistically, intellectually, sexually. Like he got free from the man. He got his plantation back, right? That he built. And 2 weeks later, so that's what I'm still missing. That because I think he gave us so much music. I don't feel like we deserve any more musically. Like he left it all on the floor, and more for us to even to get. But this idea of he got it back, and now maybe we could see what it looks like to move through the world as a free Black man, Black person.
Vernon wants to jump in there.
Well, this is the loss of Prince is pretty seismic, and we're going to be dealing with it for a really very long time. A lot of the people we lose, we have a culture of, get over it and move on. Like grief is something that we really, really don't do well. And it's kind of funny. The movies kind of, someone gets shot and next thing you know, the person's moved on to the next scene. And, no grief for the henchman, you just keep it moving, But the reality of it is that Prince was a real presence in the culture, whether he had hit records or not. I mean, Prince kind of changed everything up, and everything that Prince did. Did I love everything? No, but there was always this thought about the potential. Prince had the potential always to do something that would turn everything upside down. Anyone that's a fan knows this, that he had the potential always to do something that would upset the apple cart. When Around the World in a Day came out, there was a follow-up to Purple Rain. People were like, yo, he's out of gas. He's bugging, he's a hit, what, I don't know, I don't understand it. And when Kiss came out, it was like he pimp slapped a generation. And I remember people would say, yeah, man, he's done. Yeah, he's done. He playing on that old hippie. And then when Kiss came out, people were like, oh. And I will say, there were things that he did that, I didn't like it when he did My Name is Prince and I Am Funky. I was like, yo, dude, you don't have to tell us you're funky, right? But I will say this, the song Baltimore was a return to form. Like Baltimore is amongst the greatest of his protest songs.
Vernon, do you remember when we were doing the Shoot for Vibe? It was the cover with George Clinton, and you were doing the interview, and you asked George Clinton who is funky, and he was like, Prince is the funkiest motherfucker I ever met.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's it. Because when George Clinton says, that's the funkiest motherfucker, I was like, okay, that's gospel.
Yeah. But I think, to Michaela's point, about the anticipation and the desire to see free Black man move into the world. I mean, I think the thing he gave us in what we can talk about as the last phase of his career is also something we just rarely see kind of in the celebrity sphere at all, which is somebody move with grace into maturity as an artist, move into incredible philanthropy and generosity as an artist, and still have vitality as an artist as well. So I mean, he was kind of leaving us these huge life lessons in being, what I would say is, the anti Michael, Yeah.
Well, it's just funny that we started with Cool, the song Cool, because Cool is not. It's very interesting because Cool is associated with the time, right?
That's right.
And I get that Prince was Prince liberated a free Black man, but he had a lot of people under manners. He had a lot of folks that he had a whole thing about control, right?
He had a stable.
It's kind of like The Time was a creation.
Yeah.
He created his own rival band.
Yeah. Well, it's cosmology.
And then
right?
and
the
then
Time is the masculine, and the Vanity Six is the feminine, and
even in Purple Rain, The Time is actually funkier than the Revolution.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they're kind of like Morris Day is like his nemesis, right? But when it came time for the band to go out and tour and do their thing, he was like, yo, I own the name, I own this and I own that. And he kind of put the kibosh on what they were doing. So Prince's legacy is fabulous, but it's also layered. That's being black.
Like, our life is fabulous and layered and textured and problematic and tragic and.
We're talking about freedom.
Give you the opera,
this is a particularly complex person who there are folks who are like, he was incredibly generous to me, and there are other folks who are like, he completely screwed me. And quite often, it's both. One of the guys who was close to him said to me, he said to himself after working with Prince for years, is this a good person who has bad moments or a bad person who has good moments? And whatever the end result is, both those things were so close in his behavior that he had to weigh these two things out. So, I mean, the people around him were not always sure what they were going to get from him.
What they said was, when you work with Prince, you work with 5 twins, and two of the twins were nice. I mean, the people, people that were inside the camp, they said, yo, things would be smooth, it would be great. You come in, he'd be smiling, it would be fabulous. And that's when you knew something was that's when you knew. When he was happy, it was like, watch out. Because it would.
Part of the issue was just personality, part of the issue was blackness, part of the issue was he was not sleeping. This is a person who typically did not sleep for days at a time. And we didn't know in the 80s, I don't remember us knowing in the 80s, the science of sleep and the necessity of, now we know, like staying up for a day or two, that will mess up your personality.
As you get in this other decade. But he explained it to, I had so I was at Paisley Park for about a week, literally in 1999. And you would, you'd be hanging out and talking. He was so regular, like come on. No, I mean, he's just like he could be like your cousin Peanut, like at one moment, like watching a basketball game and he's like cousin Peanut. But then he would leave. Disappear. Just get up and leave. And later, and somehow I got the courage to ask him, like, what's... He's like, you know how you think in words? I think in music. He said, I hear melodies, I hear combinations, I hear chords, I hear it's in my head. So if this is not engaging and this is, he just leaves. Yeah. Because he either puts it down, or it's irritating him, or it's not quite there, and I'm not hearing you. We're all sitting here either really engaged, hearing me talk, thinking about what's for lunch, thinking about some shit that happened at work. He's like, I'm hearing shit. And sometimes it's harmonious with me and my spirit. Sometimes I just got to go run to the studio and put it down. Other times it is troublesome. It is. Yeah. So that made sense to me. Okay, so what I'm hearing, the explanation too was most of the time what I'm hearing in my head is way more interesting than what's going on out here. Yeah. So bye.
And the gift he called the muse, which never stopped day and night. He referred to it as a gift and a curse, and that he sometimes wanted a break from it, but he could not get a break from it because it just poured through him all the time. Which is part of why this is the hardest working man in show business. Recording a song a day. If you saw him do a stadium show, an arena show, best believe he was at a club somewhere else later that night. And if he wasn't, he went to the recording studio that day. I mean, 39 albums in 38 years, I believe it is, something like that, right? It's just an extraordinary number. But let me tell you the story that I've been saving. I didn't even tell them backstage that I just heard.
Oh, you're getting it first.
Last week. Yeah, no, I haven't told this story publicly. I'm working on a podcast that'll tell the story, but I'm telling you guys first, which goes to this is one of the greatest Prince stories I've ever heard, which goes to the idea of how hard a worker he was and how he saw himself. And the story involves Prince and Elizabeth Taylor and a man named John Sacchetti, who was an audio tech, who was described to me as a genius, but he's from Quincy, Massachusetts, which is just a blue-collar, working-class town, and just a regular salt-of-the-earth guy who still had a Boston accent, even though he's working with Prince and these sort of people. And so when the Purple Rain Tour went to the Forum in L.A., they said, Elizabeth Taylor wants to come backstage and meet you after the show. Prince did not go backstage after the show. He went to the car, quick stop at the hotel, and then either went to the club and played again or went to the recording studio and recorded. But they said, it's Elizabeth Taylor, it's L.A., you have to do this. So he said, okay, fine. So he goes backstage, and he's standing back there talking to Elizabeth Taylor. And the person who told me this story was told the story by Prince. And the word he used to describe his conversation with Elizabeth Taylor was that he was trapped. And that he was not enjoying this at all. This is just the celebrity thing. It's vapid, it's nothing. But of course, it's Prince and Elizabeth Taylor. So all these people are hovering around like, oh my God, what are they talking about? Oh my God. Now, one person saw it differently, John Sacchetti, who knew Prince. They liked each other. He's a regular guy. He was like, oh, it's a brother in trouble. How do I save Prince from this situation? So he says, okay. So he elbows through all the people, comes up around Prince, and puts his arm around him and says, yo, Prince, that was fucking awesome! I did some shrooms before the show. I had a joint in the Forum. I'm drinking. That was fucking awesome! And Boston accent as asshole-ish as possible. And Prince is like, oh my God, I don't know who let in the nutcase. Let me get him out of here. I'm so sorry. And they escape together. And the thing about it is that John knew that's what Prince would want, because Prince was not an Elizabeth Taylor. He was a John Sacchetti who happened to be famous because that's what his work led to. But he was a working man who would rather sit around and talk about audio tech than whatever the conversation with an Elizabeth Taylor would be.
So, okay. Do you know what is significant about that is when you think about beauty and who is beautiful and whose beauty counts, and you were talking about the moment in Under the Cherry Moon.
But before you go up there, we should show the clip so we have
Okay,
context.
This is
run the clip.
No,
I always like to say that.
Vernon Reid.
I picked this clip.
Yeah.
Because
Show the clip.
You should show the clip.
Do we have a clip of your movie?
So anyway, this clip is from Under the Cherry. This is a moment from Under the Cherry Moon that really struck me. Of course, Purple Rain was a huge hit. I mean, Prince had totally arrived on the national scene, so there was a lot of anticipation for the next movie. The next movie was filmed in black and white, and I saw this film in a room filled with young black girls. I mean, it was me and maybe one other dude in this. And this moment in the film had a visceral impact.
Let's show this clip.
That was my line.
Kiss me. You don't really love Jonathan, do you?
If I tell you, will you tell me something about the women you go out with?
Yes.
No. No, you don't.
Kiss me first.
Say now! Don't you two make a sexy couple? When's the wedding? I said, when's the wedding, man?
Tricky.
You still gonna marry her, aren't you? That's what you said. You said for $50 million, we would seriously consider it.
Mary.
But hey, guess what? I want my cut. You promised me 30%, I want it.
Mary, we got this little business, do you understand? Don't take it personal.
It's not true, Mary.
Do you lie?
Mary! Damn it, Tricky!
You dumb shit! What'd you do that for?
Because of the full moon, I'm a werewolf bitch. Hit my ass.
end up with no friends at all.
I don't need friends. I'm my own man. Just like Liberace.
Christopher, when can we get together again? You know I miss you. Christopher, you know I miss you.
Did she hear earlier?
So the moment he runs, I felt the women just deflate. It was a moment like he was running away from them. And I was like, man, like, why is he running away from this particular woman? She's not really in the plot of the movie, you know, and it was just, it really disturbed me.
So the fact that, you know, how I connected that clip, which I didn't know what it was, but we were talking about it, to kind of a rejection of Elizabeth Taylor, who for at a certain point, that was the epitome of beauty and glamour and Hollywood, right? And so if there's this idea that if you are brown and regular and you don't look like Vanity Six, like that there was a distance with Prince and black girls, right, and black women, and because that was something, even though you would love him, you never saw him loving a black from a distance, you know, woman. And to hear a story where he didn't want to sit and talk to the epitome of white beauty, there's something just kind of felt better about this. I'm like, I don't want to talk to Elizabeth Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor was much, much older than him, right? But the women of his contemporaries, he wanted to talk to them.
But who she represents, Elizabeth Taylor, was Hollywood. Yeah. So often we attach, whether you know, it's like meeting Sidney, no, not even Sidney Poitier. Harry Belafonte is gonna be fine to me until that man is 105 years old, and I'm like, he's so hot because there's some things I'm attached to, not just, you know, his beauty when he was younger, but who he represented. There, you hold that. Plus, he's just fine. It's weird. He's fine in 90, but it's true. But there's something about the idea of Elizabeth Taylor that is never ending. That Hollywood glamour looks like that. And so for him to be bored with that, I don't know, I liked it. I liked that story.
Yeah, it was interesting, Vernon, because looking at that now and filtering it through to some other information, not about him, but just about certain cats in my circle and their first sexual experience, you know, and knowing that film is this psychoanalytical medium where your id pops out, you know, and makes it into the cut. It was like, yeah, I would not be surprised if that was the woman he had. A woman like that is a woman who looked like that, of that age, was the woman that he had an early sexual experience with, you know, at 13, 14, who knows, you know. But I mean, it just hit me like that, you know, and it's just based on some other guys I know. And that woman in the neighborhood that just said
that
like,
woman in the neighborhood.
No, that woman in the neighborhood. Yeah. That woman in the neighborhood. That woman in the neighborhood that said, "You a pretty young thing. Come over here. I want to show you something."
That woman in the neighborhood.
You know,
okay.
yeah.
This is the podcast Girls We Fucked. You know, it's the wrong show for me.
You know, I mean, you know, man. I mean, you know, but you know, I mean, the thing that, you know, because we don't have his, you know, I said once, you know, he was his own Joe Jackson.
Well, you know, you
in terms of like,
sure,
but you can't get around.
You know,
I mean,
making himself.
He traded in desire, though. I mean, this is the thing. He traded in desire. He traded in. It wasn't just his extraordinary musical talent. He manipulated generations of women with his beauty.
Yeah.
I mean, I will just say this: I've experienced.
His game is real, because I mean,
his game is real.
I've had an experience.
His game is real.
I had an experience with him.
I know you did.
I've only told this story personally. I mean, with a few friends. No, but it was. Let me tell you, it was one of the weirdest.
You cane, right?
Okay. Don't interrupt him.
It's one of the weirdest, sexiest things that ever happened. So, you are right that. So I went on a small European press junket with him. Like he was doing Top of the Pops, and it was like the UK, Paris, a couple cities. So I went with him, and what you described is exactly what happened. You landed in a city. His sound guys leave the airport, and they go scout some clubs. And you go back to the hotel. And this is my first time going on I went on the road with him. And so I get to this hotel, and I get in the same hotel as he's in. Like it's the Four Seasons or something like that. And the crew's somewhere else. And I'm like, okay, this is cute. So I get into this hotel room. It's beautiful. There's shit in it. And so I get this call from his assistant. It's like, so he's going to call you in about an hour. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting in there, and an hour happens. Another phone call says, so something's going to come up to your room, and just deal with it. I'm like, okay. So the guy comes, like a hotel, attendant comes with this bath stuff, like salts and da-da-da. It's beautiful. It's Paris, so it's like beautiful. I'm like, okay, so I'm taking a bath, and some champagne comes. I'm like, okay, I'll know. This is my client. Like I'm working. So I'm like, then the call comes again. So he's probably gonna call you another hour. Why don't you take a nap? And they send up some food. So I'm like, okay, but I'm like going crazy, right? Yeah. I didn't know what he was gonna call and say and do, but I've had a bath. I smell amazing, And
you've been prepped.
It was so weird. And so, I mean, this is 1999, so I was cute. So,
you still got it.
Thank you.
Come on.
So I'm sitting in. So I'm. So I literally fall asleep, and then I get this call. It's like 2:00 in the morning, but the calls were coming almost every hour. He's gonna call you, and then something else would arrive, and then he'd call you, and I get some instruction, and then it's just like, get dressed, meet down in the lobby. We're going to the club. So I put on my club outfit. I'm in the lobby. Everyone's there. We get in the car. We go to the club. He has a performance and a party, and that was it. Like, that's what happened.
It was all about potentiality.
But that whole night, I was locked up in my hotel room from like 2:00 in the afternoon till 2:00 in the morning with like instructions.
Be ready.
And I didn't know what I was getting ready for. I didn't know what it was going to be. I knew I wasn't, like, it was crazy, but it was really sexy because it was, I didn't know what the fuck. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. But it was Prince. And then but you know what was extraordinary? And then that was it. I never got another call again. But it was, what was interesting is that the way that he played in that club for maybe 100 people was the same that he would do in Madison Square Garden. But he did take a request. I asked him to, he's like, what do you want to hear? And I said, Conditions of the Heart, because you got me all worked up. Like, I'm like, oh, Lord, I think it's going crazy. I was going, it was like, You
thought it was your day.
I thought it was my, I thought I was
Finally, it's my turn.
I was going to have
Prince story.
the ultimate Prince story. But it was actually far more interesting than just fucking a musician. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you so deep in, baby. Don't even.
Yeah, it was actually
right now.
It was actually.
Let's unpack that one.
It was actually
That's what that 7-second delay is for. Don't
a
worry.
lot more
Just.
interesting.
The key word is just.
Than that.
So one of the things that I was able to do when I was doing the fishing and the
I
research
was gonna say that
for
story.
That's why we're here.
That's
Okay.
why we're here.
I'm sorry.
One of
open.
the things that I found talking to women who had been with him, they said that interacting with him in those sort of intimate spaces was more like interacting with a woman than any other man that they had encountered. And bathing was a big thing for him. There were a lot of women who got bathed and did not go to the next level. He was big on.
So it was a valid experience I had.
Yeah. I mean, valid, of course.
Turned me out. I was turned out, and nothing.
happened.
And I kept my.
But see, the real pimping.
That's some shit.
But real pimping is about the mind.
That's right.
Real pimping is not about. No, it's not about your cop show backhand.
Right.
It's not about the cop show backhand. It's about the mind.
But I mean, when someone who can write like a wildcat Martha in a celibate rage, I want you alone in my dirty little cage. If you can write that shit, like imagine what you can say on the phone. Yes, all of that. Prince got really verklempt again.
Prince crossed the boundary. I mean,
I was bothered.
Some water, please.
The thing about it is that, like, Prince crossed the boundary. I mean, only a handful of artists have done it. You know what I mean? Richard Penniman in his time, David Bowie, and in one line, he turned everything upside down. I want to be your mother and your sister too. Yeah. When he said, I want to be your mother and your sister too, women across the nation said, what did you just say?
Word.
He got a nation of women ready to hear whatever he had to say next. Absolutely. Yeah. Because he was the next artist to take the androgynous thing, and really take it to another place.
But what's androgynous?
If I was your girlfriend, goes even further on that in a beautiful way.
It's like you know what? Like men can't shop with women, right? They get bored. They don't pay attention. Now, a man that can shop with a woman, that's something. I mean, hey, that looks good on you. Blah, blah, blah. I could help with. That's a different, and it's not bored, and it's kind of with it.
But he's shopping for himself at the same time.
Ladies,
that's a whole other thing.
See, y'all know you appreciate it if.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, in The Guardian, there was someone who was writing about having interviewed Prince and how he was saying how people hear the sex in my songs much more than I ever write it. If you listen to the words in Sexy Motherfucker, you'll see they're about monogamy rather than promiscuous sex. Yeah. And I reposted that and I wrote, guilty.
Yeah. I mean, the spirituality in this music is so much more, and it seems more important to him. It seems that the sexuality was there to titillate, to get y'all to pay attention, but the spirituality was the true message. And a lot of artists have talked about spirituality a lot. It's typically, the 10th song, the 12th song, the throwaway. 1999 was a single. He's talking about the apocalypse, right? Purple Rain, he's talking about absolution and forgiveness, and is also in the third verse is a message about I'm actually the savior. I'm the one you should be paying. I'm the Jesus figure, right? On and on in these major singles, he's talking about major spiritual messages about the apocalypse, Jesus, heaven. I mean, Love Sexy to him was his most important album, where he really lays out his whole philosophy about how spirituality and sexuality go together. And these are not hidden messages; these are core messages in his whole career.
But I think that's one of the things that turned women out too, is this idea. This is kind of what I said when we first heard him leaving us, was that he didn't make me choose between sex and God, right? And that I was allowed to enjoy and inhabit all of it all at the same time, and often, particularly being Black and American, and also woman, all the respectability, like all the shape-shifting that you have to do around not enjoying sex openly or talking about it, or God is only in the church, and if you mix those two up, you're like a hoe and a nun. Particularly Black women are always having to choose between these extremes of being either, a hoe or like a church lady. And he let us be all of it, all at the same time, with it like a fresh pressing curl. And so I think
church lady hoe.
with like baby hair. He had baby hair. You know what I mean? Like, and so all of these are all things that in our relationship to our mother, to our girlfriends, to our sister, none of that had to be parsed out. Like, there was something about those lyrics where you were a teenage girl or however old you were, he would just turn you out. Like, you were allowed to talk about like sex and God and fashion and hair and all of that all at the same damn time. Nobody took you there, not even Bowie. You know what I mean?
Well, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say,
who said that's African?
Oh yeah, it's funny. I was thinking it, but I think, post AIDS, a certain amount of repression and anxiety came back into the expression, the experience of sexuality in America. But the thing is, he's a product of the 70s, and there's a way in which drug revolution, sexual revolution came to Black America like a leap year later.
Well,
so. And I noticed just from, being at Howard, being in D.C. in the 70s, it was like everybody was trying everything at least once on the drug tip. And there was just a kind of, very much because of sexual revolution, feminist revolution, particularly among Black women of that time who were of college age, there was just a tremendous just shedding of all of that guilt and propriety, around sexual expression and being a sexual huntress yourself and openly expressing your desires. And the thing is, there was a lot of popular literature that we were all reading as teenagers. The time it was incredible, The Happy Hooker, Pimp, Iceberg Slim's books, you know what I mean? So, you 12, 13, this enters into your notion of what your own sexuality is going to be. But I think, the thing too is like, you were talking about Prince's impact on several generations of women, but it was also on several generations of men.
Because it's crazy to me to think about growing up without Prince as an example of how to be a sexual man, right? Because for Gen Xers, we were learning from watching him, like how to talk to girls, how to deal with, you're contemporary, so, that's different. I mean, to what you were saying too about, feeling turned out, and most of the women in my generation felt the same way, but the person he was describing in his songs was constantly getting turned out, right? In Little Red Corvette, in Lady Cab Driver, on and on. He gets turned out. The women are more sexual. Darling Nikki grabs him, and she takes him to her house, right? So he's constantly having that moment like, can I live up to her? Do I have enough class, is the word he always uses, to stay with her? And I always felt like perhaps that ascribed to the women a certain agency, sexual agency, that he's nasty, but she's nastier than her, and he totally loves her for it.
Well, it's sexual knowing, you know what I mean? And which also speaks to what I was saying about the clip in terms of, I would not be surprised if his first sexual experiences were with older women.
Well, Sister alludes to that, right? I mean, like, she's supposed to be much older than him, and he does have the sister who's 10 years older than him, who...
But to that line that's blurred, there's almost, like in watching him, in every clip, there's a part of him where you can relate as a woman to him, meaning the baby hair and the I'm stuck on baby hair, but because it's very particular. But there's a part of it where I don't even have the separation of that's a man that's going to turn me out. He almost embodies this woman, woman I want to be. You know what I mean? Like little tight ass and everything. But he gives you permission to enter whatever your gender, race, like he opened himself up to like see your possibility in him if you were looking for it.
Also,
And he's preceded in that by Miles Davis and Jimi Hendrix, who also.
But I see them as very male. Like there's
No,
not,
but
there's never a time that.
But I'm saying
Prince
the people
that-
who are close to their inner circle, the people who they considered the closest confidants, were definitely
In fact,
a whole, a couple of generations of women
part
in
of
that time.
That's part of the source of his vulnerability, though. Like particularly in a song like "When You Were Mine," you were kind of sort of my best friend, right? And, the whole thing about "When You Were Mine" is like he was very close to this girl, but she wanted a real man. And he was like, I don't care if you sleep with another guy, because I love you, baby. That's no lie. I love you more than I did when you were mine. And so there's the feeling of the potential for loss, for real romantic heartbreak, and loss is also attendant in a lot of his songs. Like my favorite song on Purple Rain is "Take Me With You."
Yeah.
I love that song.
And "Take Me With You," the day he died, "Take Me With You." I ain't gonna lie, I teared up because, I don't care where we go.
Right.
I don't care what we do. I don't care, pretty baby. Just take me with you. Who doesn't want to feel that?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to feel that in your life? For real. Who doesn't want to have someone on their bond like that? Who doesn't want to have someone that's 100 with them like that, ride or die? Like, that's the meaning for real of For Better or Worse. Whatever the preacher or whatever it is, that's what it really is. And Prince, in his finest moments, he would bring that all the way to the front.
That's so vulnerable though to say that.
And it's so powerful. Yeah. Aside from all the bluster and all of this, and I'm the man, to me, my favorite moments with him is when he does that. And it's real. It's 100% real.
I just wanted to say something in light of all of this that you're just saying, to go back to the Elizabeth Taylor story. Because I had such a different sense of him, more along the lines of what you're saying now, in terms of almost being like someone, oh, I'm sorry, thanks. This is on. Someone who can channel the feelings of women as well. Like he's almost like a cipher. So, and in fact, we were just talking about this, that when we were in college, it really was like he was in college with us because we're the same age.
In the dorm.
Correct. Yes, he was in my room with Nicole, who was called Nikki. Hello. No, he was totally there. And I was just thinking about everything else you've been saying about his awareness that if he's going to call you every hour and give you another set of directions, that is something like a girlfriend would do, but it's obviously it's way sexier if it's Prince calling you every hour in a hotel in Paris. But when he referred to feeling trapped when he's with Elizabeth Taylor, I have a completely different take on it, which is that she was someone who was married a number of times, clearly had a lot of problems in terms of drug addiction and body problems, and was so famous so young and so damaged by that. Rock Hudson died of AIDS. Like, I don't see it so much, who am I to say, but instead of it being that, oh God, I can't believe I'm talking to this, like, this overweight white woman who's the epitome of Hollywood whiteness, blah, blah, blah. I actually think of it more as like, holy smokes, this is exactly the opposite of what I am. Like, I am so blessed in my sexuality and my experiences with, and this woman is so damaged, and to be so close with Michael Jackson and then really wanting to talk to him, I see that as being an overwhelming experience of her bringing vulnerability to him. And yes, trapped in terms of like, I can't handle this right now. Like, this is the big kahuna for me because I'm all about everything this woman is not. But
not being turned off by it so much as being overwhelmed by it.
Well, I mean, I'll take that. And by the way, there's mics here and here. You can line up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have to at some point just talk about Prince as a pop music tactician, as a strategist, as somebody who had game, who wore many masks, who definitely kind of
many hairdos.
Yeah, many hairdos. I remember being at the Voice. There was one of my colleagues collected every publicity shot for every album, and there was a different hairdo. They went with every one, but but I mean, the thing is, like, he emerges in this period where the dominant strategy for black folks in the industry is something called crossover. So black people are trying to figure out how to make themselves pop, top 40, palatable, and they're also trying to figure out like how to crack this new platform called MTV. And when I look at, just kind of the twin spirits of himself and Michael Jackson in that moment, it's like they were carrying black culture on their back into the transition, the transformation of the industry, which had to do with representing a denuded, kind of blackness, or a non-threatening kind of blackness to white America. And some of that had to do with playing shade games. It had to do with playing color games, but at the same time, the thing about Prince is that as a student of Sly Stone, he was also about trying to bring together these diverse audiences that he knew existed there, and so it's not just black, white, gay, or straight, but it's also Latino, in that moment too. It's also North African in that moment, it's also cosmopolitan European,
but,
you know what I mean?
But be clear, at the end of before he was leaving us, he's very involved with the Black Lives Matter.
Oh, he got
blacker because it got more urgent, and he got more openly black because part of it is, we're all going to have very different lenses and like how we see, say, an Elizabeth Taylor. When you have lived in a world of when your beauty is invisible, right? And you don't see black women being leading ladies ever. I have a hard time, and I'm just gonna be 100. Like, I have a hard time, like, I can't feel bad for your broken privilege because we can't even get on the screen, let alone get on the screen, get on drugs, be hurt, be broken like any other person. Like, I can't, like, your pain is a privilege sometimes. And so I'm looking through that lens where, like, I was having this discussion about, like, just, it's not the same story, right? It's not the same story to be loved and to be invisible and not ever see someone that looks like your sister or your best friend be loved by someone that the whole world loves in the open hurts a lot. And so, and I'm light as they get, like, so, but to know that at the end of his life, he's helping Patrice and Alicia and Colin Van Jones and showing up at Trayvon, like, that's where he was putting a lot of his energy, right in the struggle of black life. And so, I don't even know why I got there, but that's where
100 within what you said, because you're talking for the sisters here, and you're talking about your personal experience, right? And you rightly noted he's constantly loving women who don't look like traditional black women, right?
Well, not black from a distance. We still know because the hair,
First of all, what's traditional? I don't know what
so
that means.
I mean, what I mean is, he had a type. We all saw it. It was, But I still relate, like I still saw, whether it was Vanity or Misty Copeland, those are all black girls to me. But they were a particular look and type, and they were the ones that were, if a black girl was allowed in the room, it was that type generally, particularly through MTV. Like that was that beauty, their proximity to whiteness made them safer.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing.
I know.
Right?
I'm sorry.
That's a whole other. No. Because that's a conversation about the American family, though. That's a conversation about the American family that really, in reality, the country has never really had.
Because I still see Vanity as my sister, but at the same time, you want to see someone that looks like Michelle or Lupita or Viola or. Right. Yeah. Black from a distance. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I'm saying too, it's like with the Vanities, Sheila's, and so forth, it's like we don't know whether they were objects of desires or indeed props or strategic tropes
or partners.
You know what I mean? Because as the story evolves,
there was too many of them.
No, but as the story evolves,
it was Kim Basinger, Jill Jones. I mean, like we could go on and on. A Cat. I mean, like Sheen East. I mean, it was always the lightest end of the spectrum, right? It's like we're also talking about Pimp Nosity 101.
I don't want to tell no.
Within the context of the American music business at that point in time.
Vernon, you guys a story? Come on, brother.
Somebody just So you knew I wasn't gonna go there, right? See, I was there. I was there the night he broke up with her, though.
Oh.
And it was, that's the whole story is crazy.
Tell it.
It's crazy though. It's a crazy story, but you know what? It was after show. I sat in with Prince at the Palladium, which is I won't even talk about. There's that part of it, which is a whole other thing. But so after the show, okay, so I'm about to go into the after party area. And a woman that I know, now mind you, this is a sane woman, right? Sane. Accomplished, intelligent, educated. Okay, I want you to understand this.
Say it again.
Educated, intelligent,
sane
black woman. So she rolled up on me, and what happened was this: please introduce Prince. I gotta meet Prince. Please introduce me to him. It was like a stream of please. She basically, that song, at your age, not your shoe size. She was basically going down to her shoe size, and it was so she's like on my arm, and she's starting to hyperventilate. She's starting to freak out. And I'm like, okay, check this out. I'm going to introduce you, but you got to be cool. At this point, she's almost oscillating. And I said, look, because, I couldn't diss her because, we got mutual friends. I know I couldn't do that. She's like family. I couldn't do that to her. So I was like, look, I'm going to introduce you, but be cool. We go in, and the security guard, he had these beefy dudes, and he was watching the whole thing. He was very amused. And he gave me this look. He said, look, if she makes a move, I'm going after you. Like, it was very clear, like, I was responsible for this woman, and he was gonna yoke me first, right? So she's shaking like a leaf. I'm like, oh shit. And Prince is there with his peeps, and I go, yo man, could you meet my friend? And he just looked at me, and he read the whole thing, and he was cool. He went, pleased to meet you, and it was. And she almost became a puddle. Like she, you know what I mean? But I got her out the room. And
Without incident.
Without incident. And then when I walked back in the room, I saw Nona in a corner by herself. And I was like, you know, because I met her, I think you had introduced us. And she was not happy. It's not a happy moment.
Well, I'm going to tell you, my Prince.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it?
Hypnosity 101 game. You know, because this is what, it's a somewhat involved story, but I'm going to try to condense it. But it's where I really peeped the Machiavellian cruelty of the pimp game of the Prince, right? So early 90s, I'm dating a poet. He's also a songwriter and performer. She comes to the attention of Prince. His publishing company, Paisley Park, has an advance agent here. They signed her to a 6-figure publishing deal, you know. And so he starts calling the house to talk to her. But the way that goes down is always somebody calls and says, is so-and-so here? I say, yes. And then give the phone to so-and-so. And dead silence on the other end until she says, oh, it's you. And then they had a conversation. Everybody talks about this story. So he flies out to Paisley Park and just to see the whole scene, you know, do the concert, hear the band, blah, blah, blah. And you know, there's a party out there. And so she comes back and tells me later, like, it was really strange because, you know, I ended up bonding with these different women who were there at this party because he has these little rooms there. And he would basically do what he did with you, right? Which
so
is
there were like 4 or 5 other hotel rooms.
Right. Which is like, you know, get it started and leave them kind of writhing in anticipation that, you know, the thing may be completed. So that turns her off, and then she tells me like, yeah, I think he was trying to come on to me, but I just couldn't get into a cat wearing, you know, eyeliner and heels. You know, that was just her. So, you know, the thing about a pimp though, is that they're going to find out something you desire and present it to you. You know, so if it's like, okay, my usual sex pimp game isn't working, so he asked her, you know, what would you most like in this world, you know, to have of your own? You know, she said, well, I'd really like a performance space where I could present, you know, just progressive music and poetry and, you know, and something that really celebrated the art, you know, of the word. He says, well, look, I have this space on Melrose. I'm not doing anything with it. Why don't you develop it into a club? And her being the Virgo detail-oriented person that she is, she goes out and gets in touch with like best sound people, best lighting people, best in interior design folks. She designs this whole club. She gives me the whole vision of the thing, right? And the day before they're about to begin construction, I mean, because, you know, they've been talking about this thing back and forth, and she's just been getting worked up. And, you know, I remember, like, we would have these fights. I was like, baby, you got to protect yourself. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just trying to interfere with my dream, blah, 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 right? It is what it is, you know. You know, who needs my sage wisdom, right? So, anyway, day before they're supposed to break ground on the thing, he calls and says, you know what, because of tax purposes, I really can't do this right now, right? And the desired effect is what, you know, she was devastated, but she was also just such a hard ass in her own right that after the devastation kind of came, you know, it's like after the slap comes the flowers, right? So one day, you know, she's sitting at home and an entire recording studio comes to her front door via FedEx. I mean, it's the mics, the recorders, the whole thing. She sends that shit right back. You know, she's like done with homeboy. But that's not the end of her Prince story, man, because when he did that Emancipation album, and this is like the flip side of, his liberation becomes somebody else's slavery, right? She had sent him some a cappella recordings of her poetry. So if you listen to the Emancipation album, you're gonna hear these little snippets. She had recorded those in Canada with these cats. These dudes, they must have got the album like the day of. They decided, we own the copyright to this. We're gonna sue Prince. So boom, they decided to sue Prince, and he countersues her, and she can't even leave L.A. County for a year until that case is resolved, right?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And but it was for me it was all about the meta lesson. You know what I mean? It was like whatever you have to go. I mean, the music business is that thing. It's everybody's story. Everybody gets taken.
Now this is an awkward,
by whoever their mentor.
This is an awkward
rabbi.
This is an awkward segue, but
and baby, if you're out there, don't kick my ass because I told you a story.
But another black genius who had a complicated relationship with women. We're gonna show the clip. Probably the one person, he said, Prince so cool, nobody bad like him. Well, we're about to see somebody who is bad like him. We can roll that clip.
Prince has James Brown. His father took him to see James Brown when he was young. He got on stage and danced with him. He has that. He has Jim Hendrix and Marvin Gaye. That's four things. James Brown, Jim Hendrix, Marvin Gaye. And he combines all that all the time. That's what he is. His concept on the stage is like Charlie Chaplin. If you look at it, you'll see. You can tell. Like if you look at Sidney Poitier, he's just like Gregory Peck. That's his, I can see it, but he doesn't tell anybody that. But Prince's concept is James Brown and Jim Hendrix and Charlie Chaplin. How can you miss with that?
There's so many levels of insight. The dance of two cool Geminis who refuse to let either one be the master of the situation.
So I promised it would be interactive. So please, these are the mics. We want to hear from you too.
I love how Prince dances. What was the what?
Background on the clip you just showed. Where was it? When was it?
Who, what's the source of that clip?
YouTube. No, I'm just kidding.
Didn't you have a question?
Did you go, sir?
Yeah, he was in the.
Actually, there were a couple of things that went through my mind. You were speaking, talking about vulnerability and insight.
Can you speak to the mic? They're live streaming.
Vulnerability and the insight he had in relationships. So the thing that struck me the most powerfully was, if I was your girlfriend, and he says, would you run to me if somebody hurt you, even if that somebody was me? Like, ooh. That helped me grow up, to be honest. And then there was a point that you made, talking about his, you said pop strategies. Yeah. There was something about him that made me actually kind of look down on other artists at the time. So he would release When Doves Cry, on the back of it was 17 Days. It was like he had these bad jams he could just throw away.
The B-sides.
Those B-sides. And he was just breaking us off.
Another reason to miss vinyl.
Another one and another one. It's like, my album is full, and I got all this. And then you look at the other artists, how come you're not hooking us up? Like, you don't have as much to give. You just don't have as much to give, you know? It's incredible. So I'm binging like everybody else, right? And I'm looking at a rehearsal from the Purple Rain period. And so he's rehearsing 17 days. He's rehearsing the band like over and over, 17 days and a song all day, all night. These are not releases. And they're given equal treatment. You know what I mean? I've heard the bootlegs, and he's added to them. I mean, so he's treating them, you know, he doesn't treat any children differently. They're all getting the same treatment. And it just made, you know, my own sense of, once I entered into arts, like to push and to push and to push and to push. And it was just amazing. So those are the two pieces that I had.
Well, creativity at that level is almost difficult to fathom. Like, how many people went to see the Picasso show, the sculpture show? Now, the Picasso sculpture show was kind of mind-shattering because he's known as a painter. And when you see the depth and breadth of the sculptures that he did, it's like, how did he find the time? Where did he find the time? You know, how could you be that inspired all the time? And the thing that Prince did, he was a great synthesizer. You know, like Prince, and I'm 57. So a lot of the records, a lot of things that I heard, I could hear in Prince's music. Like not just, I think there are real obvious things that people say. People say Hendrix and Sly Stone, but you know, I hear Todd Rundgren's influence, big time. He's more influenced by Santana than he is by Jimi Hendrix as a guitar player. When Doves Cry, if you put Latin percussion, When Doves Cry is a Santana song. You know, 1999. You know, those the sound of the synthesizer. That's Joe Zawinul. That's like Weather Report. Right. Because he heard Nubian Sundance like he heard Mysterious Power like I heard Mysterious Power, except he's a genius. So he takes all of that and he, you know, and it comes through, and those influences come through in a completely different way, at a completely different level, and at just the pace of it. Because whatever's on his mind, that's what he's doing. So if it's 17 days, that's it. He's not thinking charts. He's not thinking in a venal. He's really engaged at the level of, oh, this is I'm here. So he'll have a song that's like, you know, Baroque. It's got all, you know, it's insanely complicated. Then he'll have a song that has one chord. Because for him, they have equal weight. It's like, you know, he's one of the most advanced musicians that dedicated his life to funk. Like classical level, I mean high level, jazz level, but he dedicated it to funk. Now think about that. That's the music that oftentimes people don't even list it. People don't even, when they talk about genres of music, they don't even mention funk.
That's right.
You know, and that was at the center of his
thing. They get short shrift. Yes,
where did you do that at? Did not mention funk. They crazy.
Yeah, well, you know how they do.
So Vernon, would you talk a bit about the vault?
The vault?
The one the lawyers opened and what was
the one
inside?
the one the vault.
Yes.
Well, basically, what's going to happen with the vault? Nobody knows what's going to happen with the vault. I mean, there's a lot of. I will say this. I've talked to people that work with them for a long time, and they're like, listen, I always wanted to hear him do the Power Trio thing. He recorded the Power Trio stuff. He did all of that. He worked on it. At a certain point, he would just he would complete something. He'd do the whole thing. Then he'd be like, you know what, whatever. He move on to the next thing. So I would imagine that there's all kinds of pieces of music. I mean, just Prince a cappella. Mm-hmm. Prince singing a cappella. The things he did, stacking his voice. I mean, where'd you even hear that? You know what I mean? I mean, if you take any individual, this is the thing about him. If you take any single element, amazing. We won't even talk about Prince as a drummer.
Right.
Amazing. As a keyboard player, he's playing at the level of a Stevie Wonder. He's like, guitar player, all of those things, and then in combination. So what's happening in the vault? I mean,
Susan Rogers was his engineer through Purple Rain, Around the World Today, Parade. She talked to me about some of that stuff. She said the reason why he would choose to put something in the vault was not because it was of lesser quality, because this is the vibe that we're going for at this time. So the songs that he would put in the vault are not necessarily worse. They may be as good as the songs that were on the album. So I said, are there great songs in the vault? She said, I think we can say there probably are. Why should you just say yes? I'm not sure. And I asked her, well, can you name? Like, you're waiting to hear this. And she goes, well, no, I don't have any names for things. Like, I heard this and I went. But, I mean, there's so much. There must be. There must be something.
Well, it's the versatility too, man. Because he's one of those people that could make an album where none of the songs were in the same genre or the same format. Right.
And also, you would get
and
that
was
call.
A day in the life. Yeah.
Like if you were Esperanza Spalding when you're first coming out, like you would get a call. Someone would fly you to, because the week that I was there, I think 2 people came. I can't remember what Michelle. I don't know. I know Michelle got the call once. Michelle and Degocello. Like if you're dope and you could be some violin player in Sweden, and he heard about you, you go in, you do a session, and you go back to Sweden. I don't know how often that happened. So there's also these amazing collaborations with other artists that he would do in between takes while we're shooting a video. Like, so you don't, and there was work that was done that you never saw. Like I did a video with him with Malik Saeed that was amazing. I never saw it. We never saw it, and we didn't care. Like there was a part of it, like creating this environment that was so like the process of working with him was such a, it was enough. See, like that you just went and did some.
Be ready for your hearts to be broken all over again too. Because there's gonna be another tune like Purple Rain that's just sitting there that you ain't never heard. Wow. And there's gonna be another Take Me With You that y'all ain't never heard. And it's gonna be like, then the real enormity of what we lost is gonna hit us when the other things that we haven't heard before, when those come out.
Right.
And they're at the same level as these other tunes, as Little Red Corvette. You know what I mean?
Man, it already happened for me when I heard the first song on that last concert from Atlanta. Where he's singing in a deeper tenor preacher voice than I've ever heard before, and the lyric is like, when we gonna get paid for all this work we've done. And it was it was kind of like the weekend after the announcement, the death, and I'd gone to the Apollo. Gone to Questlove's party. I thought I'd had my little, shake your ass catharsis there. Heard that middle of the day, I was like wrecked.
See, Prince was a genius like this. When we go to protest rallies, we hear "No justice, no peace." No justice, no peace. On the song Baltimore, he goes, "If there ain't no justice, then there ain't no peace." He took something that we hear all the time and turned it into music.
Wow.
And that's who that dude is. All the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually drove to see him in Baltimore. I left here, drove all the way to Baltimore, saw him, came back to work, and I was at work 8 o'clock in the morning and high as anything. I mean, here he was, 57, almost 60 years old, and he was like dancing like a 30-year-old. So when we lost him, it was just hard, you know, because it's hard to think about some of the people that we're going to lose. And, you know, I didn't want to put it out in the universe, but Prince was just not even on that list, you know, so it just kind of, and I think the thing about Prince was that he, you know, his mystique, and I think we're learning so much about him now that he's gone. So when I look at all that's happening around, he must not be at peace, because all this speculation and all this delving into his private life and, you know, not having a will, and that's like mind-boggling because of the legacy that he didn't protect. So, and I'm an attorney, and I listen to.
That's why. No will. Oh, baby. What do you do? But I think that the lack of a will was purposeful.
I
like,
get
I
that.
want chaos. I want madness.
But it's the reverse of how he lived his life. He lived his life so private. I mean, like,
he was in control.
Who knew?
If he's not here to control it anymore, then why should I let someone else control it?
But here's the concern that I have, like, and I'm hoping that somebody up there is in touch with the siblings, because they really are not thinking. And
pawns in the game.
I'm sorry?
They're pawns in the game.
Yeah, but the big thing is this trust company that just opened up 4 months of people to come out the woodwork and be tested with his DNA.
It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
That's the world we're in.
But the family had the right to say, no, there will be no testing. You remember Barry White's kids? Remember those people came out? The kids said, no, there will be no testing. If he didn't test you before he left here, there will be no testing. And what's going to happen is Prince's siblings are going, I'm going to guess that there might be a little love child out there somewhere. And, you know, I just think, why would a trust company open up a can of worms like that? To me, like, whose interests are you protecting? Not the families, not Prince's. So anyway, but I'm just hoping that somebody in the universe.
This drama that it would make a great novel, they don't know him. Like, they're not like friends. Like they're family. Like, we have family who we don't know. They don't know him. They don't live in his world. They I mean, none of us did, but I mean, like, they're his brothers and sisters. They don't know him. Like, so you're like, why did they do this? Why did they do that? Why did they put out the music in this way? Why did, like, this is foreign to them.
But there's someone in his world, and I think of like Sheila E. Sheila E. comes across like she has genuine love for Prince. So okay, I'm, you know, siblings, and I don't understand the legalities of it, but there has to be somebody who was in Prince's world that you could have entrusted to handle his affairs rather than an obscure trust company.
You know what? There's a part of me, I can't even enter this conversation yet. I mean, I called the producers not that they called me immediately, but at CNN, I was like, I have no interest yet in talking about cause of death or this drama. It's almost like what you were saying about this ability to grieve. Like, I'm not over Charleston. Like, what happened in Charleston to me was so horrific. And the news cycle is just what's next, and there's Trump, and then this, and then here's the drama, and here's the and not to discount, particularly if you're an attorney, this is a very interesting on-ramp of this epic story to you, but there's a part, like, I'm hearing you all talk, but it almost sounds like, you know, in the Peanuts when it just goes, like, because just because I don't know whether grieving is, like, I'm still processing.
But you gotta be.
I'm still processing.
But if he was not that close to anybody at the end,
I get it.
Then who would he? Then who would you trust it to?
None of us are surprised. Look, the song "When Doves Cry" tells you everything you need to know.
My girlfriend said the will is in the music. His will is in the music.
What do we need to notice in Doves Cry that applies to this?
How can we just be standing alone in a world that's so cold? Maybe I'm just too demanding.
I mean, look,
I'm just like my father.
But let me say something, because it's like, when Michael Jackson passed, I had a real epiphany. you know, and I thought about, and it came, you know, it was one of those weird things that came as an image, and I just saw his body, you know, on some slab somewhere, and I said, oh man, he's free of the burden of all this drama. This is our drama. What we're talking about, this is our trauma. We're talking about that body that produced out, he's done with all this. It's not even his concern anymore.
I respect that.
You know what I mean?
It's just so different.
He, you know, his parents divorced when he's like 6, right? And he goes to live with his father. That does not work out. He goes to live with his mother, who's already remarried. That didn't work out, right? So then he's couch surfing, functionally homeless. Then he's living with Bernadette Anderson from 13 to... But his mother let him leave and not know where he was going. So the template for his life, this is told to me by people close to him, that I couldn't trust my mother. So who can I trust? I can't trust none of y'all, because when I needed her, she was not there for me.
And that's
so
the James Brown story, who also left a family in great chaos.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
So when we say, what am I gonna leave this? Who am I gonna leave this empire to? Oh, I don't trust none of y'all.
He wasn't thinking about dying when he died. He wasn't thinking about it.
But you know what? He fought hard to reclaim rights to his music.
For himself.
Yeah.
But then to see what's going to happen, you know it's going to happen. The music that he fought so hard to keep is going to end up right back where he's got it from. And that's just the whole, that's the, you know.
That's our pain and sorrow, man.
Thank you.
You know,
Corey.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. I know her too. Hi, Corey.
Hello everyone.
I know Corey. What's up?
I have 2 questions, 2 different ones. One, you know, I'm an editor at Essence, and when we did our Prince cover story, Cheo Hodori Coker did our story, and he was waiting in the wings. Unlike your story, Michaela, he was waiting in the wings because we had to get this okay that the vibe was ready. The vibe was ready for him to talk to. So I just wanted to know more about his vibe and like covering him as a journalist. Like you couldn't take notes. Like he allowed Cheo to write down, but he did not like his voice recorded. But then there was never a moment where his stories were retracted. So I just want, because you're all journalists who I really admire on the stage, I wanted to hear that. And then the other question was, me and my cousin were talking about this, the fact that when he died, the whole world mourned. Like, I mean, I know it was kind of probably easy because there's a color associated with him, but I'm even now getting chills. Like we all cried. Yep. Unlike when Michael Jackson died, I think, or when Whitney died, or David Bowie for that matter. Mm-hmm. So if you guys could talk to that, like what was that like?
You know what's extraordinary, Corey, is that first of all, like when people were getting alerts on their phone that something happened at Paisley Park, and literally I walked out of a meeting, like in the middle of the people, it was almost like a blackout where people stopped. And so I got a call to just be on my way to CNN. And when it was confirmed from 2 o'clock to 10:30 p.m., wall-to-wall prints in the middle of the most tripped out election ever.
Right.
And CNN and other news organizations, particularly CNN and Fox, are getting the ratings that they have never, like Super Bowl ratings every day because of this crazy election cycle. Shut it down. I have never seen, I mean, even if it was a bombing or a terrorist attack, I've never seen the story go wall to wall on a cultural, this would be considered a cultural story, in the middle of an election, in the middle of primaries.
Right.
Because I was sitting up there like, we still talking about Prince. Like, we're going to talk about Prince some more. Like, it was every single show, wall-to-wall Prince. And it was, at first I never expected that, like that news organization would do it. Again, in the middle of an election cycle where they are getting numbers, like, because everyone's like, oh, this is a business situation, they shut it down for Prince. Like, shut it down.
So let me go to your first
You
question.
said all fans, right? From Jeff Zucker down to like the 50-something-year-old white guy to the black PA that's 17 years old. Right, they're all fans.
So your first question, Corey. I interviewed him once at Purple Rain. I mean, once formally. You know, I think every time you're talking to an artist, you're interviewing them. Mm-hmm. But we did one sit down. It was Not very good. I mean, one of the worst interviews of my career.
Did you write?
I was allowed to write notes, but the way that he spoke was very flowery and Shakespearean, and so there was a struggle to keep up with what he was saying, because I'm like, I want to get these words down right, because he speaks in a very particular way, but then there were times when I know I got that whole sentence down, and then I would look at it later and be like, I have no idea what this means. So I just printed it as, here's a Prince sentence, I have no idea what this relates to. You know, and he was very much sort of controlling, like when you would talk to him about, you know, like if I try to push the conversation in a certain direction, he's not having it. But when he wanted to talk about Michael Jordan, it was 98, so Jordan was hot then. He wanted to talk about Jordan for a while. He wanted to talk about the whole music business, slave, emancipation, liberation thing. He wanted to talk about Larry Graham for a while. You know, like, let's talk about Purple Rain. Like, not happening. The thing for us when we got into a groove as subject and writers, when I took it out of that realm, right? And for I always wanted to try to do something with the star, right? So the interview was terrible. I said, I need more time. I emailed, I wish I still had it. Like he emailed me back. Oh, like, wow. I emailed the publicist, Leslie Pitts, who's not here with us anymore. And he emailed me back 10 questions. He didn't answer 3 of them. And the 10th question was, will you play basketball with me? And the answer was, anytime, brother. So I was like, well, you said it. So I went back to Paisley with the photographer for the stories, Icon magazine, with a basketball, because there were going to be no excuses, right? I have a ball. So we played one-on-one, and...
Did you have on a shirt?
He had on a black...
No, I said you.
Of course. Excellent question. The one-on-one game, you know, I mean, like, you know, we're not ballers. I mean, he looked good. He looked like a player. Like, if you just saw him and you couldn't see the hoop, you'd be like, he's balling. Like, I mean, you know, there was a lot of rebounds because we're not putting in 10,000 hours on shooting Jays, Fritz and I. So I think it was like 3-3 when we brought in the keyboardist and my photographer. They played together and we played together. So at one point, he's open down by the hoop, and I'm dribbling the ball at the top of the key. I see he makes a move, right? He moves without the ball, and he's open. He doesn't even realize how open he is. So I do a really quick pass to him, right? And cause I grew up on Magic Johnson, so quick no-look pass, that's the thing. Ball's coming toward him, and I'm like, oh shit, he doesn't know it's coming. Like, and I'm thinking it's gonna hit him or something. And this is the symbol time. You could not say Prince, or you get thrown out of Paisley Park. So I go, Prince, but you're not supposed to say Prince. So like, Prince, get thrown out of here. The ball goes out of bounds. He goes and gets it himself and brings it back. He's holding, he's laughing at me. And I'm like, what's so funny? And he goes, you didn't know what to call me. And he loved that. And there, finally doing something, I got much more out of him than trying to talk to him.
It's okay. Who has his 2 mics? We have the 2 last questions. So who? Come, take it. Or comments, either one.
Also, while the next person queues up, when we were at Vibe, a ticket was bought 17 different times for the interview. I left the magazine before the story was finished. I wasn't the journalist, but it was like, okay, Prince will do it on this date, and then another 17 different tickets for that story back then. Did you do that story? Mm-hmm. I don't even know who ended up doing it. So it's
a week. Our creative team was in LA a week waiting for a call.
The call, y'all. That's the metaphor. Wait for the call.
You got the call, and y'all didn't get the call.
So I guess you have the last question then.
I'm not sure if you want to speak on this, but I just wanted to know, do you really think he passed away not letting anyone in, and what your thoughts were on him being found alone in an elevator?
What do you mean not letting anyone in?
Yeah, me too. Well, you mentioned in your book that he had a lot of, it was like this sort of struggle of him wanting desperately to connect with people, but at the same time not being able to, and just wanting to know if at the end that was still.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like if you read the things that Tavis Smiley wrote, Tamron Hall wrote,
Van.
He was in Van Jones. He had a whole network of people.
Right.
And this is a part
yeah.
of like that at some point he crossed his own Rubicon. It was like the final mask was transparency. So if you see the interview he did with Chris Rock when he had his show, he's just very plain spoken, straightforward, no games, no feints, no flowery language. It's like a brother talking to another brother, and so it's clear. And then, from what Tavis says, just about this incredible generosity, just this incredible, period of or just fountain of giving that occurred. I mean, all around the world, different. People are starting to kind of tell the story. So, I mean, I'll just say that the story behind the story of his death is just incredibly sketchy, and the truth of that may lie in a few ounces of blood, or it may not. But the one thing that we do know is that there were at least 3 people who were involved with unlicensed medical treatment and drug dispensing. 2 of them were actually at Paisley Park that day. We know that. And these are the shadow aspects of the story, and they take us down to a real kind of dark X-Files kind of place, no question. But I mean, it just doesn't hold up.
I mean, I mean, he's not Howard Hughes at the end as a recluse, but the folks who I know, you could call him on the phone, but no, he did not ever able to create those sort of sustaining relationships that
like
mark
final.
No, I mean, I think if it was a novelist, it would be too on the nose that on his final night, he literally goes home alone at a time when he has no serious girlfriend, no wife, no children, and dies literally alone with the skeleton crew at Paisley, literally alone in it. I mean, it makes me extraordinarily sad.
No, but
to think about him literally alone.
I don't know
in
whether
the
you
last
can.
end.
The thing is like I don't know whether we know because
we don't.
When
know
I
Jack.
particularly we don't because what I
was
really struck by was Van Jones and how incredibly hurt he was.
Right.
He had an intimate relation like that. He was like talking about his brother. I was shocked by it.
Yeah.
And so it had me believe that they had a brotherhood and a friendship that was real and that was intimate, that felt like Van was going through it like a family member, I felt, in public. And then Tamron Hall, I'm not close to any of them colleagues. But so I think that also perhaps in these last 10 years, something might have opened up and that there were different relationships that we don't know about, but particularly this brother that he was calling and helping and coaching him through a very hard time. Like, I think they had something. And obviously it's poetic, don't let the elevator take you down. So everyone's like, oh my God, that happened.
Sometimes it snows in April.
Sometimes it snows in April. So there's a lot of poetry and metaphor around it, but I don't feel like he was alone and weird. I feel like there's, I don't know, he was loved. He was so well loved. And you can't be that loved if you did not love, right? And so he died loved, I think.
Yeah, and I think like any of us, some of the people I'm closest to, our most intimate conversations now, they happen like over the phone, online, might be hours at a time. This dude, my friend AJ, we get on the phone, talk for 3-4 hours if there's time enough in our lives. We know that, Tavis said, for as long as I knew him, he'd call me, from anywhere in the world. We'd be on the phone to the wee hours of the morning for 3 or 4 hours. You know what I mean? He was very engaged with the world, engaged with news. He was a news junkie. You know what I mean? Was very much up on current events. You know what I mean? Was definitely a serious magazine, newspaper reader. You know what I mean? So it's like it's definitely not some story of the lonely, shut-away poet, who passed away in his garret. You know what I mean? And again, Tavis just talks about him hearing about, when he heard about Lauryn Hill going to jail. First, it was like, what's happening with the children? But that same kind of generosity didn't just extend to, the celebrity sphere. It was like I have a friend, from Florida. He says, he supported this kind of Black arts initiative that center that's in my town. We know he gave 1.4 million to Harlem Children's Zone. I mean, and these are the things that are slowly starting to kind of trickle out.
If you were,
so I don't know if you could be more engaged with the world than there's one interview where on Tavis's show where he says, we did some research. We found out you gave out $200 million worth of, in donations last year. And Prince says, wow, 200 million, that's a lot of money. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, and that's why also I think in terms of this whole moment about the will, the legacy, the so forth, it's like he was trying to give it away. He was definitely trying to be that dude.
And
man.
the 200 million, you don't even know the whole of it because, the band member said, if they showed up in a town where this person had grown up in, he would give you a check to give to your school. So you'd be giving your school $1 million, which appears to come from you, basis for Prince, but actually it was from him. If God forbid, your family member passed away, he would take care of it. So there's all sorts of generosity you're seeing all the time.
And I think that's why we all gather here today to celebrate
Get
this.
through this thing called life.
There we go. There we go. There we go. So thank you all for coming out. Thank you.